Welcome to Secret Story. Suddenly, I remembered where we were and pulled away for Raymond. He looked at me and took my hand, pulling me to his SUV. Then we were in the back seat. He moved us around, lowered the seat back flat, and rolled out a blanket he kept in the back. That it was an incredible time. We finally were exhausted and lay together as we calmed. We said nothing of what we had just done and, after a half hour, silently dressed and separated from each other. I drove to my mother-in-law's house to pick up the kids after stopping at the grocery to build an alibi for what I had done. I was sure I smelled of, so I bought some mouthwash and simple body spray. The kids were happy to see me. So I stayed and chatted with Rose for a while so the kids could finish a video game. I must be a good actor, as she had no idea what I had been doing. We left and called Rick from the car so the kids could talk with him. The call went well. I was excited. Rick was going to be home a day early tomorrow. As I hung up, guilt overtook me, and I fought crying in front of the boys. I soaked in the tub sobbing, knowing I had cheated on my loving husband with his former best friend. God, what had I done? The next day, I avoided Raymond. He had come to my office twice, but I ignored him. He finally left me alone. Rick came home that night, and as hard as it was, I go to him, trying to focus on him and not thinking of Raymond. I did succeed, and we go several times throughout the night. Friday, I called in sick. Once we had the kids off to school, we went back to bed. We went to Rick's mom's for dinner and game night. We had a wonderful time. The next week was normal for us. I put what had happened with Raymond in a box in my brain. It was a one-time thing. It was done, never to happen again, or so I thought. Rick left on Monday, and the kids had a Cub Scout meeting in Cookout after school. I was to pick them up at 8:30 p.m. As I was leaving work, Raymond caught me in the parking lot. He hugged me, and I pushed him away. Not here. People can see us. I got in my car, and we drove to the park again. As soon as we arrived, Raymond pulled me into his SUV and onto the bed in the back. It was incredible. It was almost my fertile time. What if I get pregnant with Raymond's black baby? Oh God, no, that cannot happen. We stayed coupled, each other for another hour together, then we separated. We lay together, not speaking, just holding each other. We finally got dressed and exited the SUV. Raymond, this has to stop. It is too dangerous. I love my husband and children. I cannot risk losing them. Cheryl, I feel things for you. I know it is dangerous, but I need to continue to see you. We will be careful and never do anything when Rick is in town. We can make this work. He pulled me to him and kissed me hard. I knew I felt something for him as well, but I was so afraid of what would happen if Rick caught us. We went to a motel at lunch on Thursday and for an hour. I didn't let him inside me. I swallowed his load instead. Oh God, what was wrong with me? I was turning into a very bad person. I was getting so messed up over my affair. When Rick came home that night, I was not myself. I was sore, and I knew if Rick saw it, he would know someone. No, he would know that Raymond. I had to stop this, or I was sure I would get caught. I had to have him. We were into my new travel routine, and things were going great. I was making more weekly sales, and the commissions were rolling in. The next couple of months flew by. I finished a travel week and got home Thursday as usual. I had a good week, making 2 large sales. My welcome was a little less than expected. The kids were happy to see me, but Cheryl was not so happy. She said her period had started, and she was not doing well. I accepted that as I knew her time was near. But that was not how things went for a couple of days. It was odd and made me wonder. That was the first time I really had odd feelings, but as I looked back, there were a couple of other times. Then there were the thumbprint bruises on her hips. It had to be Raymond. Each time was during my time away. I thought that was odd, so I became even more suspicious. I had a bad feeling that something was going on with Raymond. God, I hope not, or my wonderful life will come apart. That I carefully watched every move Cheryl made, but other than my homecoming letdown, everything seemed normal, and Saturday, she me like no tomorrow. The next week went well, and then the dreaded trip came up again on Monday. That we talked every night, and things were normal. There was a PTA meeting on Wednesday night she was going to with a couple of other moms. They always go out for a little girl time after the meeting, so the kids were at my parents' that night to sleep over, and Mom would take them to school. We had planned a camping trip for the weekend, so I took off Friday to get ready. I would also get a little makeup time with Cheryl. On Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. I called Cheryl to talk and remind her of a couple of things I needed her to do tomorrow. I called early so I could catch her before the meeting. I knew she probably wouldn't answer once she was out having a glass of wine with the girls. That I got no answer, so I left her a message and then shot her a text. Text, "Hi Cheryl, I know you're at PDA then going out after. Give me a call as soon as you can, okay? I went to dinner in the hotel and read USA Today. I ate and had a couple of drinks with no response from Cheryl. I thought that was odd. She usually gets right back to me. I paid for my tab and went up to my room. As I sat there, I had a bad thought. What if she is not at PTA or with the girls? Then it had to be Raymond. God damn it, that was it. I pulled out my laptop and pulled up the Find My Phone app for iPhones. I put in Cheryl's number. A few seconds passed, and the dot popped on the screen. Her iPhone showed she was at home, in our house. What? I thought, maybe she left her phone at home. No way, she is married to the device. It is part of her anatomy. I thought for a minute. I have Raymond's number, and he has an iPhone, so I looked up his number and plugged it in. A few seconds later, a red dot popped up on the map. God! I screamed at the top of my lungs. His iPhone showed he was at our house, too. I knew something was going on. Suddenly, I began to lose it. I was pacing the room. I had to be sure, so I would call Meredith, the one she said she was going to the PDA with. I found her number and pressed the call. The number rang. She answered. Hi Rick, how are you? There was a surprise in her voice. Meredith, I am doing fine. I am out of town on business and am trying to find Cheryl. I called her and texted her, but no response. She told me she was going to PDA with you and a few girls, then going out for a drink or two. Is she with you? Can you get her on the phone? There was silence, then mumbling. Rick, Cheryl is not with us. She called me an hour ago and said she was not coming. She was home with a migraine. Oh gosh, I bet she is asleep, so she didn't answer. I'll call my mom. She has our kids, so I'll get her to check on her. Thanks, Meredith. Have a fun night. We hung up, so she is not covering for her, at least. Okay, no firm proof but a pretty damn good chance they are go right now. I wish I had a security system. One will be installed next week. I had a thought. I opened my camera and shot a picture of the screen with both iPhones at our house. Evidence piece #1, I sat there watching the screen, seeing the little dots flash. I drank all the beer in the mini bar and started on the liquor. I was getting pretty wasted. I fell asleep for about an hour. When I woke up, it was almost 9 p.m. The two dots were still flashing at my house. I went into the bathroom and washed my face. I dried my hands and face and walked back into the bedroom. Raymond's dot had moved and was heading away from my house. A few minutes passed, and my phone buzzed. It was a text from Cheryl. Let's see if she lies. Cheryl's text: sorry I didn't go to PDA and out with the girls. I developed a migraine at work and came home early. I was sleeping, so my phone was off. Are you okay? Can we talk early in the morning? I need to go back to sleep. Wow, maybe she did have a migraine. But why the hell was Raymond's iPhone showing at our house? Very odd. My text: oh baby, I am so sorry. I know those wipe you out. I am sorry you have one and couldn't go out. If you need anything, I can get Mom to bring it to you. Cheryl's text, no, sleep is about all that works, so that is what I am going to do. My text, okay, go to bed and rest. I'll be home tomorrow. I will be there to comfort and love you. Sleep tight, and call Mom if you need anything. As I hung up the phone, I glanced at the laptop screen and saw Raymond's iPhone flashing as it arrived back at my house. That is coming back to spend the night. I said aloud that I was fuming mad. They were going to pay for destroying my life and our family. This was going to be bad for our boys. I was pretty useless the next day, so I made only 2 major sales calls and headed home. It was a 3-hour drive, so I started to develop my plan. I was divorcing my cheating wife and suing Raymond for every penny he had. I also would give Alice every bit of evidence I put together so she could dump Raymond, too. Then, the 2 lovers could be together, broke, and in love. I called William Stone, my attorney, and filled him in. We discussed how I should handle things and develop a plan to protect myself and my money. I had an inheritance from my grandfather that had been invested wisely. I had never touched it. When we were married, I had a prenuptial agreement drawn up to protect the money for any future children in case our marriage ended. I reminded William of the prenup, and he remembered that we also talked about suing Raymond. He had done quite well for himself, so some financial meat was on the bone. I didn't want to hurt Alice, so we had to have him served at the same time, and she would need to divorce Raymond as quickly as I was divorcing Cheryl. William gave me the name of a company he uses for security, and I called them. They were coming on Monday to install a video security system. It was expensive, but I had to have it. I knew it was happening, but I needed hard video proof. William and I gave the cheaters a month while building a case. I would be able to get a video of them during that time. In the meantime, I was to act as I had before, being the loving husband and dad that I was not worried about the money. The prenup was strict, and Cheryl got nothing from me except a $25,000 buyout and 50% of the house. She would have visitation rights with the boys, but I would have custody. That I was solid, and since Cheryl had a good paying job, I would have the kids, so no child support. As for the house, I would buy a new home, and we would sell the house and split it equally. The blood was racing through my veins as I thought about all of this and how ridiculous it was that it was happening. Rick would be home soon, so I had to put my acting skills to work. That I had told everyone I had a migraine yesterday, even playing it up at work so I could leave early. Over the past several months, I did not understand what was motivating me. I love Rick and my boys. I love our life and did not want to lose that, but Raymond had a compelling pull on me that I could not resist. I cannot understand it that I lied to everyone so Raymond could spend the night in my bed me all night. It was incredible. I called in sick playing on my migraine again. I heard Rick pulling into the garage of our beautiful home. I curled up on the sofa with a wet rag on my forehead and a blanket over me. I faked sleep when Rick came in. I was a horrible person and an even worse wife. Rick came in quietly. He expected me to be somewhere resting. He came into the family room and saw me. He quietly went to our bedroom, which I had scrubbed completely this morning. I had put clean sheets on the bed and then rustled around to make it look like I had slept in them alone the past several nights. I moved and opened my eyes as Rick returned after changing his clothes. Rick looked at me with an odd look of confusion and concern on his face. That I pulled into the garage, unsure of what I would find inside my house. Cheryl was home. I took a deep breath and set my attitude to accept whatever bullshit I was walking into. That I had 4 more weeks to survive before the hammer would fall. I was planning to use Cheryl as my personal until that day. At the same time, we will make family memories with our boys for the last 4 weeks that we will live with their mother. It was quiet as I entered and walked through the house, not knowing where Cheryl was. I found her sleeping on the sofa in the family room. I was a little confused. She was putting on a great act for me to convince me she had a migraine last night. What Cheryl doesn't know is that I know I took my bag up to our bedroom and was surprised. It looked pristine, everything in its exact place, even better than on a normal day. It was too clean. I knew she was faking, and what I thought happened last night had happened, adding another nail to both of their coffins. That I changed clothes and quietly went downstairs. I walked into the family room next to the sofa, looking down at Cheryl sleeping. A minute later, her eyes fluttered open, and she looked up at me. I can act as well as Cheryl can, so I smiled at her. "Hey," she said softly, rubbing her eyes. "Hey, yourself, how are you feeling?" Suddenly, Cheryl began to cry softly. I didn't understand why she was crying. I sat beside her, rubbing her head. "What is the matter?" She buried her face in her hands and softly sobbed that I had no idea what was happening with her. Was guilt beginning to overtake her? Was she crashing emotionally? I didn't know that I stuck with my plan. "How is your migraine?" Cheryl stopped crying, and I dried her eyes and stroked her face, putting in a good act myself. "It's over, but you know it saps my energy and makes me very tired. I am so glad you are home. Your mom is bringing the boys home in a couple of hours. Now that you are home, I need to go to bed. Is that okay with you?" "If that is what you need, baby, then sure, I will take care of dinner for the boys, and we will play a game before they go to bed. Rest up, and we can connect tomorrow when you return to being yourself. I'll call in for you, and you can stay home tomorrow." I helped Cheryl up to our bedroom. I would take pictures of them once Cheryl was asleep for evidence exhibit #2. That I closed the door and went to the kitchen to work on some dinner. The boys would be home soon. I was going to make spaghetti and meatballs with salad and garlic bread. I checked the pantry and freezer for the ingredients. We had everything but the bread. That I called my mom. "Hi, Mom." "Hi, son. How are you?" "I am good. But Cheryl is not doing well. She is very tired. She had a hard night last night without much sleep. She is in bed now, sleeping. I am making dinner, spaghetti, and meatballs, with salad, garlic bread, and ice cream for dessert. I have everything but bread. Can you stop on the way over and pick up some Italian bread? You need to stay for dinner, too." Mom agreed to bring the bread, and she said she would bring the boys home by 5 p.m. I hung up and began working on dinner. Rick came home, and I did my best acting job to convince him of my fake migraine. My body was sore. I knew what I was doing was insane and had to stop. This crazy affair had been going on for almost 7 months. Off and on. We had become more daring or careless, thinking we would not get caught. Raymond was sure that Alice didn't suspect anything, and I didn't think Rick did either. I was confident because I knew him, and he would have already kicked me out. I had to ensure I played my part perfectly, but it was becoming increasingly difficult. My feelings for Raymond were much stronger now, confusing me greatly. I still loved Rick, but I also was beginning to have loving feelings for Raymond. That I was in a sad state. Something had to happen to end this mess, or it was going to be ugly when it all came out. Rick was his normal, loving self. He cooked dinner and catered to my needs, respecting my migraine recovery. And not pressing me into bed. He even volunteered to bathe me in the shower or take a bath in the soaking tub with me. Concerned that I might have small marks on my body, I declined for now but promised we would make up for lost time tomorrow. Rose and the boys came home a little later, and I awoke from my nap. We had a nice Italian dinner with ice cream for dessert. We played a game of life. How ironic is that? Rose took the boys home with her so I could rest, and she would keep them until Saturday. Rick cancelled the camping trip but was staying home Friday, and we planned on catching up and being a family on the weekend. Oh God, Cheryl, yes, do it. This was something we had done years ago but not recently. He loved it, and I thought Rick would enjoy it too. As I slipped up and down his Rick looked at me with strange eyes. I could tell his brain was working. A dreadful thought appeared in my head. He knows. Oh God, he knows, I panicked. My breathing suddenly stopped, and I am sure my eyes glazed over in fear. He quickly flipped me over on my front and sternly said, "Cheryl, close your eyes and don't open them. Lay flat on the bed and don't move. Stretch your arms and legs out like a starfish." I did as he commanded and felt him quickly buckle straps around my ankles and wrists. He pulled them tight, and I was secure and could not move. Rick had never done this to me before. It was a little scary but also exciting. "Keep your eyes closed, or I will blindfold you, understand?" Yes, Rick slipped a hard pillow under me. We had never played the bondage game, so I wondered what had inspired Rick today. If he knows about Raymond and me, he has me in a dangerous position. I hope that is not the case and he is just playing with me. Then there was silence. I wanted to open my eyes and see what was happening, but I had been warned. As the minutes ticked off, I was becoming extremely nervous. I heard no movement, no breathing but my own. There was nothing. I was sure I was alone. Did I dare open my eyes to see? What would happen if we were discovered? I couldn't resist any longer. My eyes squinted open. I could see nothing. The room was fairly dark, but it was only mid-morning. The drapes must be closed tightly, and all the lights are off. Then it happened. Quickly, something slipped over my head. I gasped, "What is happening?" "Cheryl, you don't listen or obey very well. I told you to keep your eyes closed and not to open them unless I told you to, but you didn't listen to me, just like you have not listened to other things I have told you recently, have you?" "No, don't answer that question just yet. I already know the answer anyway." Oh God, what was Rick doing? Did he know? What was he talking about? What had I not done or done that he told me to do or not to do? Oh God, Raymond, not to talk to Raymond. Did he know? God, did he know? Oh God, no, please, he cannot know. That I was starting to panic. My breathing was short and halted. I couldn't move. It felt like torture. Maybe that is what it was supposed to be. Maybe Rick knew about us, and this was the end of our marriage. Dear God, I hope not. Back to the moment, I cried out, "Oh God, Rick, what is happening? I don't like this." Once again, there was silence. My cries meant nothing and just floated in the air. My hearing was more muffled now with the hood on. I felt completely vulnerable and defenseless. Is that what Rick wanted? I heard movement, then suddenly, a hard spank of Rick's hand landed on my right cheek, followed by another equally hard spank on my left cheek. The stinging pain was severe. I screamed, "Oh, Rick, what are you doing?" Rick said nothing. He moved up onto the bed between my stretched legs. His hands softly rubbed over my warm cheeks. Then, as quickly as he had been gentle, he spanked me twice on each cheek again. Shocking me. I pulled against the restraints and screamed again, "Oh Rick, please, that hurts." Rick sat still, saying nothing. Then he was gone again. What was all this about? Why was Rick treating me like this? I was so afraid that he knew about Raymond and me. Then what? Then Rick was back. That was strictly Rick's territory. Raymond had not been given access and never would. Then I heard buzzing and felt the tea. Rick held it there and turned up the vibration to the max. I lay there for what seemed to be a long time. Then as quickly as he had been gone, Rick was back behind me. I screamed with pleasure. I had awakened this morning to the wonderful feeling of my wife's sweet mouth. Something I am sure she had done with Raymond many more times than me over the past 6 or so months. Cheryl looked at me, proud of what she had done. I smiled back, but for another reason. Her acts reaffirmed my concerns. Cheryl was doing things to me that she had done with Raymond. The feeling was incredible. We had done this long ago, but not recently, though I am sure Cheryl had done this with Raymond, and that is why she brought it back to me. I smiled at Cheryl with a disparaging look, and her face showed a slight panic. I knew she was worried that I knew something was going on, so I took control and was going to have some fun on what might be one of the last times it was time for me to have some fun and release some of my frustration. Cheryl didn't follow instructions and opened her eyes, so I put a hood over her head so she could not see. Then I went to work on her. I think not, I became more aggressive as I was also taking a little revenge on Cheryl. I stopped, letting her calm down, leaving her to think that I had accomplished my goal. I wanted Cheryl to see what kind of love life we could have had if she had only asked for it or talked to me about it. But no, she made her decision to find a lover elsewhere. That was her monumental mistake. Now, our future is bleak. I love this woman, but I am unsure how I can ever live day to day, believing she will always be true to me. Divorce seemed to be the only path I could take. That I watched Cheryl breathing for a minute. When I was sure she was okay, it was time for Cheryl to wonder where I was and what I knew. She had to decide how she would try to fix this mess she and Raymond had created. When I got to my lawyer's office, I sat in my SUV and sent Cheryl a text. Text, Cheryl, hi, I need to finish some work so that I will be at the office for a few hours. I hope you enjoyed this morning. I did. Why haven't we done this before, and why are you suddenly doing things we have never done or have not done in a long time? I am glad you did them, so why you did it now is unimportant. I love you. See you later. I'll be home in time for dinner. Then we can have an encore performance tonight if you are up for it. I waited for a response, but no one came. I went into William's office for our 2:30 p.m. meeting. We were about to finalize my plan for dealing with Raymond and Cheryl. It was going to be a hard meeting that I decided to see what Cheryl might be up to, so I logged in to find my iPhone. Her phone was still at home. I checked on Raymond's position. His phone was on the move. I watched it moving toward our house. Then I saw Cheryl's phone begin to move, and Raymond stopped. Cheryl arrived at the same location as Raymond. That sealed it. That I looked up the location and found it was a coffee shop. They were meeting there, or they were parking there and slipping next door to the Hampton Inn. Either way, I needed to know which it was, so I called William, delaying our meeting. I drove to the coffee shop location. I saw their cars in the coffee shop parking lot. It looked like they were in the coffee shop. To be sure, I went to the Hampton Inn and asked the desk clerk if 2 people had just checked in. She told me no one had checked in the last 2 hours. I showed her Cheryl's picture, and she said she had never seen her before. That was a relief. So, they were meeting in the coffee shop next door. I drove back to William's office. I knew exactly what I had to do. We just had to work out the plan and schedule. It would happen in 2 more weeks. I could make it that long. I needed the time to make all the arrangements. I had to buy a new home, make the financial changes, gather all the video evidence I would need, and work out all the details. More on all that a little later. William and I hammered out the plan and motioned all the paperwork. We will meet next week to work on more details. This all had to be airtight when I pulled the trigger, so to speak. I called my boss, Fred Silverhorn, and asked if he could leave the office to meet with me today. It was 3:30 p.m., so we met for a drink at an old pub I knew. As I waited for Fred, I looked at the Find My Phone app and saw that Cheryl was home again, and Raymond was back at the office. They must have only talked. That was a good thing. Fred and I talked about business for a while. He knew that was not why we were here. He asked, "Rick, what is the problem, and what can I do to help?" "Fred, I have a major marital problem. It seems that Cheryl has been cheating on me for 6 or 7 months now, and I am ending her affair and, most likely, our marriage, though I have not made a firm decision on that yet. Fred, I am getting advice and taking time before that decision becomes final." Wow, which shocks me. You guys always seemed so solid. I am so sorry. I hope you can work things out if that is even possible. Fred was supportive. I explained to Fred, I need 3 weeks off, but no one in the office should know I am off. It needs to look like I am working on a special sales project that will take me out of the office for this time. I will appear each week but only come in to visit with you and do no work. I will tell Beth, and she will work out the front end for me and mask my absence from Cheryl. We talked about some business. Fred, I will stay on top of my accounts but not make any trips. Though Cheryl will think I am away on my normal travel days. We finished our drink and left shaking hands and with a man hug. Fred was a good man, and he will help me through this. It was time to get home and fake it through the night. As I drove home, I made a mental list of everything I needed to do. Some of them I could do online, but many required on-site visits, and those would all be taken care of next week when I was supposed to be out of town. I knew I needed to tell my two best friends soon, but not yet. We were going out to dinner and dancing tomorrow night with them, so it would have to wait until closer to D-Day. I made one last stop at the I Spy security store. They outfitted me with everything I needed to set up a self-installed video security system of mini cameras, transmitters, and 2 voice recorders. The store technicians told me it should take about 2 hours to install, so I will have to find time over the weekend or Monday. I needed to call the security company and cancel their installation on Monday. They also installed the software on my iPhone for text and email tracking that I had to send to Cheryl that I left and stopped at a convenience store for gas. I sent a text to Cheryl. The tracking software would automatically be installed on her iPhone. It would capture all the texts and emails Cheryl and Raymond send to each other and copy me. My text: Cheryl, do I need to pick up anything on my way home? Cheryl's text: no, baby, I just want you to come home. My text: on my way. Are you ready for me? Put dinner on hold. I want you now, be in bed waiting for me. Cheryl's text: oh yes, baby, come take me, make me yours. That was an odd statement. Cheryl did not realize what she had said. That I pulled into the garage and walked into the house. The sweet smell of dinner was in the air, but it could wait. There was a sweet, cheating that I needed to ravage waiting in our bed. That would be my appetizer. The final part is coming soon.